Oh, let me tell you something. Busting makes me feel good.
For those lips. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Blockbusting. I'm Jay Light. These are my lips. This is the podcast where we love to hate the movies. Joining me today, one of my oldest friends,
Yeah.
Matt Lester.
Hey, Jay.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Doing good? How are you?
I'm good. This is exciting. I've been doing a couple episodes out on the road now, and the first two are with comics, but the next two it's just with funny pals.
Yeah.
It's nice to do these with friends as your dogs go crazy outside.
Yeah, they are. I was so excited when you asked me to do this. Like I've wanted to call in, which is not an option. I've always wanted to participate in the podcasts where people shit on movies that I love. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really very glad to get the opportunity to shit on a movie at all now, with nobody getting to defend it or anything like that.
Cool.
Because I don't know. I just
Be
want
sure
to.
you point the mic at your face too.
Oh, for
There you
sure.
go.
I should do that.
I want to
That's
make sure people hear your opinions on this movie.
That's a good idea.
The horrible, very bad Aquaman.
Aquaman. Oh my! Much like our oceans, this movie is full of garbage.
Full of garbage.
and shit.
This is a Great Pacific garbage patch of a movie.
Well,
it's so bad.
Atlantic, technically, because
Yeah.
Atlantis.
Atlantis.
Yeah.
Atlanta.
It's just. I mean, let's just jump right in.
Just jump right in. What's your beef with it?
My beef with it is that I wanted it to be good, and I love superhero movies so much. Like Marvel. I mean, Marvel is its own thing. And I've always liked DC characters. I've always enjoyed Batman. I've always liked Superman.
Mm-hmm.
I think Man of Steel is a great movie. I think Wonder Woman was a pretty good movie. And I like Jason Momoa. And I want to be right out in front with this. I don't want to put the problems with this movie on the entire cast necessarily. Right. And I don't think that the problem in this movie is that Jason Momoa is not capable of carrying the character. What it is that I think that it's just so poorly told. Like they don't take enough time with anything. And let's for the sake of argument, just leave studio issues, whatever problems.
Yeah, DC stuff.
I mean,
any of the mishandling of the whole DC universe.
Because it just feels like what happened is that there were two movies. Like there was an Aquaman 1 and an Aquaman 2 that got written, and someone was like, no, we're gonna smash these two fucking movies together, and they just did such a bad job of doing
so bad.
that. It's so much longer than any superhero movie needs to be. It's so much. It's the hubris of expecting us to care about characters that they have not developed whatsoever. And I was ranting at my wife about why this movie's so bad, and she was just very patiently listening to me. And I was telling her that what's wrong with it is that I don't think the difference between a Marvel movie, most Marvel movies, and most DC superhero movies so far is that you can know nothing about Marvel. You can know nothing about a character's comic book history,
right,
and go see a Marvel movie and enjoy it because it's not even being made for comic book people.
No.
I mean, and because once again, comic book nerds are about as useful as homeless people as a demographic to pursue for going to see the movies because there's not enough of them, right?
No.
They're not going to make your movie $1 billion movie. That's going to come from appealing in a positive way, not pandering, but appealing to everybody. Mm-hmm. And these guys literally just expect you to give a shit about Arthur Curry or Bruce Wayne or whoever simply because you're supposed to know who that character is. And to be fair to them, there are a handful of characters, only a handful of characters in superhero canon that you can just jump right in with, and most of them are DC characters.
Right. I feel like when I first was even made aware of superheroes as a cultural thing as a kid, all of the ones I heard about were DC superheroes.
Like Superman, Bruce Wayne. You can literally make a movie and just call it you could call it Man Bat, and people would be like, "Oh yeah. I'm in." You don't
totally.
yes, I'll go see this.
Well, because I never saw I never saw Marvel cartoons. Maybe a Spider-Man television show, but there's Justice League reruns all the time.
Exactly.
And Batman and Robin showed up in fucking Scooby-Doo.
Right, and the Kevin Conroy Batman cartoon that was on Cartoon Network when we were
with Mark Hamill as the Joker.
Exactly. Like when even Batman Beyond, like those are iconic.
Yeah.
Which is why it was so surprising in our 20s or whatever when Marvel swooped in and was like, no, and just batted everything down and took over. And so the fact that Aquaman, who is arguably like the lamest DC like superhero character,
right?
I will say that like I think I'm not certain, but I think if you go back and look at more recent Justice League stuff, they tried to sort of badass him up a little bit.
Well, casting Jason Momoa as Aquaman is a good way to start.
In the cartoons, even, I mean, I remember when I want to say like I was in high school and there was like Justice League had come out and they hadn't actually incorporated Aquaman into the Justice League yet.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was back when it was like Martian Manhunter.
It was Martian Manhunter, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and like Hawkman or Hawkwoman or whatever.
Hawk person.
Hawk person. And
to get our pronouns right, it's Hawk person.
Hawk, gender non-specific thing.
Hawk non-binary.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Anyway.
They can use whatever Hawk-related bathroom they want.
And there was this large storyline where basically Aquaman was like, fuck the surface world, which like arguably, not arguably, is the plot of the villain of this movie. And he just showed up and was like, you guys have been screwing up. Justice League, you're part of the problem, you're not part of the solution, and I'm going to right this wrong. And they had to like convince Aquaman, who could just basically beat the shit out of all of them, that he had to join their side and that they were on the side of good.
Right.
Which like is cool, I guess, but it's still just like, he's just not a cool character. Right? His best superpower is that he can talk to fish.
Right, he can talk to fish. I remember even in the oldest versions of like Justice League cartoons, I remember watching those, and Aquaman was basically never used. They used the fucking Wonder Twins more than they used Aquaman.
He's always like riding a dolphin, and like most of the comic frames of him are him putting his fingers to his forehead,
and then just
the ring, the circles, which they use in this stupid fucking movie.
Right.
And it's just like that's all like. The boys got it so right. Like their ocean superhero is like a joke. Like they make fun of Aquaman in that show. And I think that like that's sort of what they tried to do in this movie. They tried to play up this cheesy quality of Aquaman, which would be fine.
Right.
As long as it's like it's small. Like if you don't make the biggest part of the movie like it's silly and jokey and he's kind of not a serious superhero, but like how are we supposed to take him seriously or be invested at all?
Right.
And if the whole point is that the movie's just a silly joke, well then they still like then I would say look at Ant-Man. Look at other Marvel movies.
Marvel movies understand how to tonally pull this off in a way that DC still hasn't figured out. Like this is the thing with Aquaman. The 2018, it's coming out after, it's the 6th film in the DC Extended Universe. So there's
the 6th?
Yeah, the 6th. The official DCEU timeline starts with Man of Steel. And then it goes to Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Then Suicide Squad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Suicide Squad's officially in the DCEU.
I wouldn't have thought about that. Okay. Yeah.
Then Wonder Woman. Then Justice League. And then Aquaman.
Okay.
So Aquaman comes out. It's at a time when everybody's freaking out I'm assuming, I think Warner Brothers, because I think they own DC's cinematic properties.
Yeah.
But they're freaking out because Marvel's cleaning their clock at the box office. And all of their movies are getting critically panned. They have no idea what to do. So they're like, all right, we got to change. We got to make a tonal shift for 2018. We're going to drop Aquaman. We're going to drop Shazam. Now, Aquaman is the thing that Shazam, I think, wound up pulling off, which I only say this as somebody who hasn't even seen Shazam.
Me neither.
I just say to someone who like knows what people are saying about it, which is, it's a fun time. It's a good, they pulled off the comedy well. Aquaman tries to do the comedy thing, but it also has all of this crazy melodrama that it doesn't manage to marry those things well.
Exactly. And so that's just it, is like if Shazam is a movie about a kid who becomes like a superhero, but not like a child superhero, but can turn into a fully grown, super powerful person, like that's a funny idea. So of course that makes a funny superhero movie.
Yeah, it's big, but with superpowers.
What they tried to do with Aquaman was they cast Jason Momoa, who I guess they just think has more charisma. I mean, that's not true. He is charismatic.
He's charismatic.
I think, and we talked about this a little bit already, but I think that if they had taken the time to flesh the character out more and made Aquaman 1 into the 2 movies that it was supposed to be.
Yeah, Aquaman. If they'd separated it out,
he could. I think that he has the strength. I think that he could have pulled it off. But the way that they just smashed an origin story and then like a whole other, like, oh no, like that's just what it is. Is that it feels like you are watching a story where you are already invested in the character and you're like, what is he going to do? What is this person, like, I'm rooting for this guy, but like, I just never really feel like I actually am.
right.
And even at the very end, I'm just like, you know, I'm just annoyed I'm not annoyed by Jason Momoa, but you're just, like, who cares? Like, who cares at all about what is happening? How am I'm not invested in any aspect of it. And it's only because they took all this movie and we're just like, we gotta just shove it all into this, like, what? It's like
143 minutes, 2 hours,
it's
20 minutes
140 years is what it feels. I mean, it's just.
I mean, we were watching it together, and before we even, like, I think we'd gotten an hour in, and I was already like, this has gone off the rails. This is unwatchable.
You said it at like an hour and 10, which is like literally, like just about halfway through.
Because, I mean, I think if they had separated this movie and done an Aquaman origin story, a proper one, instead of just kind of shoehorning it in, spliced in flashbacks throughout the movie.
Right.
Then you would have been able to be like, all right, we got a whole thing going on. We get to see Aquaman. We get to see him figure out all of this stuff with Black Manta, I guess.
Yeah.
Or Ocean, whatever villain they want to go with.
And let's just I just want to say, in 2018, when you're going to make one of the villains be a guy whose fucking name is, like, the first 8 letters are literally Black Man, and he's the bad guy.
Right.
Like, what the like? Not like that's the problem, but it's just that was definitely part of his villain persona when they created him in like the 50s. I mean, it makes no sense to me because he even like he disappears at like 80 minutes, 90 minutes into the movie, and he definitely feels like he's going to be coming back in a sequel at some point, but and
that's the thing. I don't even know if he does. Like, they build him up enough by giving him, like, they give him a whole montage. Mm-hmm. They give him a lot of backstory.
They pay him as much service as Aquaman.
Yeah, Aquaman kills his dad, and his dad is like, "You have to avenge me." Mm-hmm. And then he has this whole training montage where he's taking the Atlantean technology and using it to build his powerful plasma ray shooter,
right, to become Black Manta, exactly.
And then he just kind of vanishes. He's barely in the movie when he's ostensibly a big enough villain that they're giving him deep backstory and like a motivation to kill Aquaman.
Like, so, like, let's just jump into the whole "this is 2 movies."
It's too many.
Idea.
Yeah.
Like, what they should have done, or rather, one of the reasons I hate this movie and why it's a piece of garbage and dog shit is that, like you said, there's an origin story, and then there's a second film where this character we are invested in accomplishes something to, like, level up, essentially, right?
Right.
So, like, we want to see the origin story where we learn about how he was born. We learn, you could learn about, like, the history of Atlantis a little bit, because that was, like, some of the more interesting stuff. Some of the stuff that you saw were the CGI that was so overblown and overdone. Because, like, 95% of this movie's on a goddamn green screen.
Right.
I mean,
and not even a well-fixed green screen. Like, it's so obvious.
Right. And
except for the underwater stuff.
And so that's why if you had, and we talked about this a little bit, where if you, like, took the origin story, which is, no green screen stuff, and then played up these really massive, like, above water vistas and things like that, where these guys you're seeing this huge, amazing kingdom that then falls.
Right.
And then you're also following the storyline of, once again, above water, his origin story, learning about his powers. Him
finding his dad out. Yeah. His dad's a crazy alcoholic. Him having to drive his dad home from the bar every night.
Like, make those, like, human moments land, because they also, like, they make really light of that. They make really light of the fact that, like, there's that whole scene where he goes and gets drunk with his dad, which is like, and his dad, like.
By the way, also one of the most predictable fucking jokes of the whole movie is when he's sitting at the bar with his dad, whose dad is probably like 5 shots in already, and they just got to the bar.
Right.
And this tough group of biker looking dudes comes up and they're like, "Hey, you're the fucking fish boy from the water, aren't you?"
And then he says, Fish man. It's like, fuck you.
Right.
Fuck you for saying that.
And they're like, we just want to get a picture. And then they have this selfie montage, and then it's Aquaman literally like carrying his dad and putting him in the passenger seat.
and that's just it, is that like they try to make that, oh, he's so sweet. He's
Exactly.
carrying his drunk ass
It's so
dad to
nice.
the car. It's like, he just raged all night with his dad in this fucking bar. Like, this isn't sweet. Like, these guys might as well be brothers for all we care.
Right.
And like, there is just no emotional investment. You're just sitting there shrugging your shoulders like, all right, what happens next? And then they even have this really cool tidal wave thing happen where, this giant battleship just gets smashed on the rocks.
Yeah.
And he sees it. And then they literally just have like I want to say 25-second, 30-second shot where he tries to outrun the wave in his truck with no harrowing music, nothing other than just like the wave's going to get you, and it's obvious the wave is going to get him.
Yeah, of course.
And then that's what happens. And then it happens. And then it's just like, okay.
I completely even forgot. We have to talk about the musical choices of this movie.
Oh, it's great. I'm really glad you bring that up. So I went and downloaded the
The official Aquaman soundtrack.
not the Aquaman soundtrack. I downloaded the love song that plays like every time his dad goes out on the dock to and when he meets Nicole Kidman.
Right.
We'll get into that
We'll
later.
get into that. That's a whole other thing.
The lyrics, like the first, I probably turned the song off like 5 seconds in, but the lyrics of like the first 3 bars are something like, born on the wrong side of the ocean with all the winds and tides against you.
Okay.
Like you thought you weren't good enough, but that wasn't true. And it's like so on the nose. It's like, what? Like,
if there's ever a thing of getting away with not being subtle, I think superhero movies can do that. But there's so many other parts of this that feel like the music when they are romping around in the desert. And it just feels like it's some wacky hijinks.
It's like Tom and Jerry music
Yeah.
there. And then also when he at the very beginning of the movie when he is like
On the first
the
interaction with Black Manta.
when they he attacks the submarine or he tries to save the submarine.
Yeah.
And they're playing these like heavy guitar riffs. It's like playing up this, he's badass
Yeah,
thing.
they do like 3 guitar riffs in 2 minutes, and all of them end with Jason Momoa like raising his eyebrows and doing a squint.
And it's just like it's so heavy-handed, and you can do things simply in a heavy-handed sort of way,
Right.
That is still really artistic.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to bludgeon people over the head with. How cool this character is, or how lame this character is, or how heartbroken this character is.
No,
you can do those things and be overt without being fucking obvious.
And that's just it. Is that somebody went and picked this guitar? Like somebody was like, all right, this guitar riff, this song, this weird, stupid, hijinky music. Nobody was like, let's hire a person to write music for this movie, which is what anybody worth their, at the very least, let's hire one person to like artistically pick music to accompany these things.
Yeah.
A great example is like the whole, like in the first Iron Man movie, when he breaks out of like the caves or whatever and they play I Am Iron Man.
Yeah.
That's a little on the nose, but it's done so perfectly.
Right.
And so it's
kind of tongue in cheek, which I think Marvel, again, if we're talking about films in the superhero genre that pull off being tongue in cheek, Marvel has it figured out.
Exactly. And so that brings us again to another point, which is that this movie tries to be tongue in cheek at the same time as being like a space opera.
Yes.
And like a space opera acknowledges how over the top and ridiculous it's being without making fun of itself.
Right.
And this movie at times seems to make fun of itself.
Yeah, because you basically have Aquaman as the person who, even though he's true. I was so trying not to make this pun, but he's a fish out of water in this movie.
Absolutely.
But I didn't want to say that.
He's out of his depth.
He's out of his. He's buried underwater. That's not even a thing.
Yeah,
but
buried?
if I say it and sip this coffee, maybe it sounds like it.
I think we need to play up.
I think Aquaman needs to wave goodbye.
Oh my God, I was just thinking of a wave one. Yeah, it's just that.
So, but he's like the audience surrogate in a way where he's the one who's supposed to be like,
Right.
oh, this is silly. But he's talking about how silly it is while also being the dumb guy who's
Right.
your main character.
Right.
The audience surrogate is not also supposed to be the person who we're rooting for the whole time.
He should be like a plucky comic relief who's like, and that's just it, is that he is, you put it so well, he is the audience surrogate, and he is also somehow supposed to be our hero.
Mm-hmm.
But like, we're not supposed to be at the center of this. This is supposed to take us out of reality,
Right.
not bring it to our reality.
Right. They're trying to make Arthur Curry, they're trying to make Jason Momoa just too much of a like everyday guy who just like, he likes to drink beer with his dad.
Right.
And he wants to fuck Amber Heard. And that's supposed to be like, oh yeah, I relate to this man.
And once again, we talked about this a little bit. Like, this movie is just an Arthur legend storyline, right?
Yeah.
He's supposed to go and draw the trident and become the king, blah, blah, blah. But usually in an Arthur legend, like, for example, I hate to keep bringing up Marvel movies, but the first Thor movie is the same thing, where he can't pick up the hammer anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's because he's not worthy to pick up. It's not even literally that, like, he has to go find it and doesn't want to. It's like he cannot pick up his hammer because
Right.
there is something wrong with him, and he has to fix that thing that is wrong with him. Literally, the only thing wrong with Arthur Curry is that I don't want to be the king.
Right.
And that's not a flaw. That's fucking laziness. That's that's being scared. And if the flaw is fear, play up the fear more.
Right.
He never runs away from anything other than other than when he gets beaten. Like, he gets beaten in that fight. Here he gets
But
beaten.
even he doesn't really run away. He gets picked up by Amber Heard.
Right,
he gets
saved. Rescued. He never like shows fear. Because he doesn't. Like, he picks a fight with that guy. He picks a fight with everybody.
Yeah,
He never,
somebody who's afraid of things doesn't have a cool guitar riff happening in the sweet line of dialogue.
It's just this, like, once again, two movies like smashed into each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so what would have been great would have been an origin story where he, and like, let's without taking characters out, putting characters in, let's just say in the first movie that, what is it, Patrick Wilson?
Yeah, Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson is
The Ocean
is
Master.
the Ocean Master in the sequel, or in this movie. But let's say he becomes Ocean Master in the sequel, and in the first movie is like the King of Atlantis who hates Aquaman and doesn't want him to have anything to do with them.
Right.
And he, they oppose each other. And let's say that he fights him and gets rid of him as the King of Atlantis, but doesn't become the King of Atlantis.
Right.
And like, then he comes back in the sequel. Like, there would have been this great stepping stone to going into the second movie where he's accomplished something, but now he's afraid. Now he has to conquer his fear and become the king. But in this, it's just this, like, it's like a video game, It's like you just have to literally slog through these 2 hours of fucking movie until you get to the point where you're going to draw the trident and become king. I mean,
okay, yeah, we're at ocean level now. All right, cool. Now we're in Italy.
Yeah,
this is the Italy
right.
level.
This is
we have
Italy
to talk
level.
to the right NPCs. We have to do the side quests.
And don't even talk about like the Italy. Like, here's what I'll say: the Italy scene was great. Like, I loved the fight scene, the action sequence. That was very fun, and which just brings up one of the elements of this movie that I like is all the
action is great. I really like the action
because we got an action director.
James
to make
Wan
it.
knows how to do the action right.
And it just feels like somebody went back and re-edited the movie, and someone's like, "You got to explain more of this stuff." And it's like, nah, because they also. Sorry to be so all over the place.
I mean, that's what podcasts are for, dude.
But
White guys going on tangents.
They break this main rule of show, don't tell.
Yes.
There are so many voiceovers in this movie.
Right.
Willem Dafoe does voiceovers. The movie opens with that voiceover with Jason Momoa, like, where he says, like, if you put two ships in the ocean without wind or tide, they'll come at the same time, or whatever, he says.
Right.
Like it's just so... It's such bad, like, basic movie making, and I don't understand how it happened. That to me is like I don't understand. I hate this movie because it just seems like like somebody didn't have any idea what they were doing.
Right. And that's the thing is I don't know where in the actual chain of command of making this movie that actually
Exactly.
is, because there's clearly, I mean, the fight scenes are great. A lot of the actual shots and the cinematography, even when it's on a green screen, the VFX work is really well done for stuff that's like the underwater shots.
And to go right quick back to like the idea of two movies, it would have been super fun to have the first movie be mostly like above water, and then the second movie, you know, because we're like, we haven't seen Atlantis, we haven't seen this cool stuff, and then we finally go under and we see the giant kingdom of Atlantis. We see all these great underwater, like huge. Is that a seascape? I don't know.
I guess a seascape, yeah.
A land seascape? I don't know. You see all that really, I mean, because even though that's all CGI, it's so pretty and so fun and so beautiful. And it just all lost because you're just sitting there like, okay, well, I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. I'm still trying to give a shit about anybody in this movie. Like,
it's just so hard. And here's another, if we're going to separate the movies out, I don't know where you stand on this, but I think Nicole Kidman doesn't show up till the second movie.
Oh, I agree. Well, I think she appears in the prologue where we learn about how he came to be.
Oh, I think we don't even need that in the first movie.
You think so?
I think we have Nicole Kidman only be in the second movie. So I think the first movie is just Arthur and his dad grown up, and you get some stuff with Willem Dafoe. Second movie, you get to see the romance.
Okay, so if we're going to do that, I want to say that I want to see a scene where Boba Fett talks to young Arthur Curry, because that's who it is.
It's Boba Fett.
Let's acknowledge that. That's Boba Fett, who for some reason is a Maori warrior living in Maine at a fucking lighthouse. Like that, once again, only makes sense because, well, we got Jason Momoa, so we might as well get Boba Fett to play his dad. Anyway, I want to see a scene where he is reading a story to young Arthur Curry about the legend of Atlantis. And like, you don't have to go into an overblown CGI scene about the origin, about how it fell. But I think that is good storytelling, where it's, because then the question is like, how does my dad know this? Why am I the only kid who knows this story? Where did all this come from? And that builds this character up more. And so I'll agree. If you say that she doesn't show up till the second movie, I think that's great, but I want that in the first movie.
Yeah, I'm with you.
There's more. There's just so many little things that they could have laid down, and so many more things that they could have taken their time with. There's like this movie's, it's missing salt. There needs to be more salt in this. You know what I mean?
C movie.
There's no flavor in this movie. There's there's style in certain places,
right?
But in all these little scenes in between, and you see this like in all these little between action scenes. It's like somebody just didn't know. It's like when you watch an opera and there's little bits of talking because we couldn't really squeeze this bit into a song.
Right.
It's like somebody just didn't really know how to connect this action scene to this one without putting. It's like a Tarantino movie, you know. We had to have some talking for a second,
right?
So we're just going to talk the exposition out, and then we're going to cut to something else, and then we'll cut back to this.
But even a Tarantino movie will have interesting dialogue that's happening.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the other thing too. It's like they can't even get the interesting exposition right. It's just boilerplate. What happened to my mom?
Right.
Your mom. She's gone.
Your mom.
What?
Yeah, which are like, and let's talk briefly about Willem Dafoe as a choice.
Let's talk about Willem Dafoe.
I think that Willem Dafoe is obviously a great actor.
Right.
And
he's one of those guys who, like, I love seeing him in movies. If he gets cast in something, I will probably go see that movie.
I'm interested to see it.
I trust what he does.
As I remember, he was in the Justice League movie briefly, and like the under the Atlantis sequence where the Atlantean mother box gets stolen,
right?
And which is once again a problem with this movie, is that they think that like, oh well, we showed these characters in that movie, so now you know about them and care about them, which is just not true. But he has resting goblin face.
Yeah.
Like he just looks like a goblin. And so and not only that, but they de-age him in this movie.
And that doesn't help. No.
You see him in these sequences where he's talking to young Arthur, and like I can't do the face, obviously because we're on a podcast, but like he makes these faces at times where you're just like, what's wrong with your face?
You ever see a photo? Have you ever heard of the subreddit called I think it's Photoshop reality.
Yes.
Okay. So you've seen pictures of people who have airbrushed stuff out of their face to the point where it's so obvious, but but they are acting like it's not. That's what de-aging did to Willem Dafoe in this movie. It's like he's airbrushed. He's like, you could buy him on a t-shirt in a Florida Walmart. He's so airbrushed.
Absolutely. It's like somebody grabbed him by the back of his head and just like pulled all his skin tight, and it's just what is going on?
It's just unsettling.
There? It is. It absolutely is.
Part of what I love about Willem Dafoe as an actor is that he's got that face where it's like there's a lot going on in there. When you take away all of his ability to actually emote, it changes the way you look at him, because you're just like, oh, he's got like dead eyes. He looks horrifying.
And he's got all these wrinkles, but he doesn't when he's
But he
de-aged.
doesn't, right.
And so if we're talking about two movies, I know we're not. I think he's only in the first one and he dies.
Ooh, interesting.
Because
I can see that.
That's drama. That's like a thing that changes Arthur. That's
Right.
Because
That's what the right before the climax. That's the
Exactly.
Act 2, like the break between Act 2 and Act 3.
Exactly, because he has his father who he has a troubled relationship with, because first of all, if his dad's an alcoholic when he's grown up, his dad's been an alcoholic almost his whole life. Right. So that's like a dramatic moment we totally don't get to be a part of, but would be great for a first Aquaman movie.
Yeah.
And then it makes it a little more sad when we see him like drinking with his dad and throwing him in the truck or whatever.
Can you
in the
imagine
second
just
movie.
having the scene of Aquaman, of young Jason, of whatever kid version of Jason Momoa they have?
Anybody, yeah.
They have him driving his dad home, and then the officer pulls him up, and Jason Momoa manages to convince him that it's okay because that officer is a fish. It's a great way to pull the scene off.
Right. Like, it's just, there's just so many missed steps. And that's, once again, what I hate about this movie and it goes back to, I want to like it. I feel like there's a good movie in there.
I think there's two good movies in there.
And I really don't think that it all hinges on like someone's bad acting or someone's bad directing.
It's just a whole problem.
It's just like a shit sandwich.
Yeah, it's a fucking, I think, what's cioppino, the seafood seafood stew?
The stew. Okay, but cioppino is good.
Right, this is bad. This is like made with bad ingredients.
Like bad fish.
Yeah. Like this fish has been unrefrigerated for just a little bit too long.
Oh, absolutely.
They're like, we're going to try and pull this off.
It's sat out. This is rotten. It is rotten fish.
If there's, I mean, I was looking at some of the reviews, and I know that you said you were looking at a couple of these. I was surprised at how well it did in the review space. Like, it got a 65 on Rotten Tomatoes. So a lot of people are like, this is fine.
I think that comes from lots of the reviews that I read basically identified the same problems that we, or at least and I know that you shared some of my problems with the movie, and identified them as like strengths. Like somebody in particular, I think it was Ebert, said like it moves seamlessly between like cheeky action and operatic melodrama, and I just disagree. I wholeheartedly disagree. There's like this moment at the very, very end of the movie when he finally makes out with Amber Heard for a second, which once again would happen in the second film, not the first film.
Yeah.
They make out and there's just blowing stuff exploding, which also once again looks like space.
It looks space. It's cool looking.
It looks amazing.
I like it.
And then
I can see why I got nominated for Best Kiss at the MTV Movie Awards.
Did it really?
Yeah, it did.
Oh my god!
I don't think it won. Hold on, let me see.
Like they kiss for a minute, and after she like lays out this plan about what they need to do, and then he has this cheeky like, "What was our plan again?" line, and it's just like that. Don't do that. Like, don't be that version of the hero. Like, that's what your little cheeky aqua boy sidekick or your dolphin.
Right.
Like, right there. We just landed on it. If there was going to be a cheeky sidekick, it should have been a fish. It should have been a fish.
He could have had a dolphin or a fucking
anybody.
Flounder. This is your flounder. You need your Sebastian in this movie.
Yes. Oh my God, that's such a good idea. Like that would have made this movie better, and they just didn't have it.
This is a crazy thing to me. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I'm seeing from like Peter Travers, who basically hits us in the same notes that we do. It's a mess of clashing tones and shameless silliness. Chris Nashawati of Entertainment Weekly says it can't decide if it wants to be silly or serious, a superhero movie or a parody of one.
Right.
But there's positive reviews. Matt Zoller Seitz, excuse me, it says it takes skill to be as ridiculous as this movie. It feels, and this is the thing you were saying from the RogerEbert.com review. It feels simultaneously like a spoof and an operatic melodrama, which is that it does, but that's not a good thing,
right?
Because it doesn't actually balance those genres out.
Because it doesn't nail either one,
right? It's just trying to exist in both worlds and not pick a choice. There's no actual choices made in this movie, that's the problem with it on a grand scale.
Which is exactly like what we talked about, is that there's no hard line drawn. There's no actual there's no fishing line carried through
right.
a whole thread of the movie. It constantly turns left and right, and it never actually, because once again, every single time you go to another place in the movie, you're like, what are we doing here? Like, how did we even arrive? At one point in the third, fourth, whatever act it is, when you just keep going back to Jason Momoa and Amber Heard are just wandering around the world doing whatever the fuck they're doing, trying playing detective and trying to find the lost trident.
Right, they're on their little Indiana Jones and whatever chick Indiana Jones is banging adventure.
For some reason, they just keep playing up and pointing out how evil Patrick Wilson is and how evil his plan is coming together.
Right.
And once again, story-wise, we know all of this. You don't have to convince us of any of these things. If we're talking about creating a good story, you've got to figure out, and especially because the movie's just too long, you've got to figure out a way to tighten that up, show us less, because you just I hate the fact that they just kept showing us he does this evil thing, and now he does this evil thing, and then he does this because he's just so evil. It's we know how evil he is.
We already know how evil he is.
From the moment he says the words Ocean Master, I didn't know anything about Aquaman villains other than Black Manta when I saw this movie.
Right.
And I still remember going to the bathroom at some point and Googling as I was walking to the bathroom, because I saw this in theaters. As I was going to the bathroom, what the fuck is Ocean Master? Because I just sounded like some heavy-handed, dumb, oh, this has got to be an Aquaman villain. And of course he was.
Of course.
And it's just I hate the fact that they couldn't just sort of pick and choose. And if they wanted to have two villains, you can have the two villains, because Marvel movies have done that well too. But you pick one of the villains who just gets the shit beat out of him in the first scene, and
right.
that's you play lip service to this character that people like, and then you also pay lip service. You
don't
get rid of him.
You don't give him a whole backstory and training montage, and I don't know. I guess what you're saying is that neither of us were hooked by this fish.
No, not at all.
We didn't get reeled in.
No,
this was not alluring. Tackle box.
You're you're Gills. You're a million miles ahead of me.
It's time to finish this episode, though. So that's all I got to say.
Yeah, I mean,
this is a bad movie. Don't see it.
It is not a good movie. You should not see it. I feel I watched it so many. I've watched it 4 times. On and off, ever since it came out, because it's on HBO. Just trying to reason out why I hate it so much. And I'm really grateful that I got this opportunity to talk about it with you, because what I realized is I hate it because it could have been good, and it just was handled so poorly. I really am interested to see how big of a stinking turd Aquaman 2 is going to be. Or a floater, if you will.
I actually, you know what? One last question. This is more of an existential one than anything that I think pertains to the movie. Do you think the Aquaman that was made in the universe of Entourage, with James Cameron directing it and Vinny Chase and Jessica Alba starring in it, do you think it's better than this Aquaman?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely a better movie. It obviously performed better at the box office.
True.
It was reviewed much better. It made Vinny Chase's career in a way that this did not make Jason Momoa's career. Although it seems like Jason Momoa exists outside of...
Right. Jason Momoa is fine no matter what.
People love him. Frontier is so fun. I don't know if you've ever watched that. That's why, once again, to anybody who's listening to this, I don't really want to place the flaws of this movie on any one actor, except maybe Amber Heard. Not really. She was totally fine. But this isn't a problem of acting or a problem of anybody's charisma or ability to carry a story. It's a problem of a bad story told poorly. And I do really think that given the right script, the right tools, there is a good mood for all of these people to perform in.
Yeah. There's 2 good movies in here.
At least.
Maybe even 3.
Yeah, at least. I mean, the third Aquaman movie might be somewhere in there. It's just like, you don't feel anything the way that you should feel in a good movie, even in a silly movie. You know, like most Marvel movies, even when they're harrowing and suspenseful, are not like movies that you feel in your heart, but the human moments in them are ones that at least land a little bit. And nothing lands in this movie.
Nothing lands
at all.
It all
sinks, as it were. It's nothing. You don't feel it, and that's kind of what is a bummer about it.
This movie's a real piece of ship.
Real, yeah. There you go. A real sinker, if you will.
Well, let's stop harpoon on how bad this movie is. Matt, thanks for doing the show, dude.
Oh, thank you so much.
If people want to follow you on the social medias, you got I know you got an Instagram.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Matt Gary Lester. That's MattGaryLester. And that's about it. I don't really do Twitter or anything else like that.
Cool. Well, follow Matt there, and you can find me at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram, jlightcomedy.com for show dates. If you like the podcast, tell a friend, join the Facebook group, subscribe on Patreon, and don't see Aquaman. It's not worth it.
Show notes.
Yep.
Look at the show notes.
Look at the show notes. Look at the show notes, please. Matt, thanks for doing the show, dude.
Thank you, Jay.
This has been Blockbusting. Go see something good for a change. Yay. We did it.